तो यार आप सभी का स्वागत है होराइजन फॉरबिडन वेस्ट प्लेथ्रू गेम प्ले पार्ट 61 62 में सॉरी। यार अभी देखो हम ये अपना एरेंड करने वाले हैं सन्स ऑफ प्रोमीथियस डेटा। और उसके फाइनली हमने पिछले पार्ट के अंदर बहुत मशक्कत करके बार बार आउट होकर हमने उस एरेंड को स्टार्ट कर लिया है। और एक बार वो चालू करने के बाद हम इस एरेंड को करेंगे और उसका सारी कन्वर्सेशन देख रहे हो ना, वाइट वाइट जो हो रहा है सारा।
I should go to my room and check out the focus I found in
ये
that
जो वाइट
medicam.
कन्वर्सेशन है सारी, ये सारी की सारी कन्वर्सेशंस करेंगे और उसके बाद अगले पार्ट में हम करेंगे फाइनली जेमिनी।
Okay, the focus I got from the Sons of Prometheus is encrypted, but with a little time I should be able to hack it. There, got it.
Aloy, it seems you've recovered some property that doesn't belong to you.
Well, you're not surprised to see me? You know, after you tried to sell me out to the Zeniths at the Hades Proving Lab?
Hardly. When I realized the lone huntress had been raiding Regala's camps, I knew you had escaped. Subtlety is not your strong suit. From now on, I suggest you stay away from rebel operations. You're meddling with something you don't understand.
What I understand, Silence, is that you've doled out machine overrides to dangerous people, and stoked up a tribal civil war. Again. I'm gonna put a stop to it.
Fine. Stubbornly blunder ahead as usual. Your efforts will only slow the inevitable. A warning, though. The Sons of Prometheus are very tenacious, and they want your head. There's nothing I can do about that now.
Oh, I'm scared. What will I do without your protection?
You should be scared, Aloy. More than you realize. But I have better things to do than educate you. Best of luck flailing about in the fog of ignorance.
Ow! One of these days, I'm gonna shut that arrogant mouth of his. Permanently. But first I have to figure out why he's doing what he's doing.
ओके हमने सन्स ऑफ प्रोमीथियस कर लिया है पूरा। मुझे
There's
नहीं
a
पता
lot of
कैसे करा।
equipment here. Gaia, what was all this for?
This room was designed for management of the facility's vast seed banks. From here, control center operatives would have monitored new crop rotations into the automated farmlands, now known as Plainsong.
I see.
ठीक है यार, अब इसी के साथ हमने ये एरेंड पूरा कर लिया। मुझे नहीं पता कैसे हुआ। तो अब क्वेस्ट के अंदर हमारे पास अब सिर्फ एक जेमिनी है, वो करेंगे अब हम बाद में अगले लेवल अगले पार्ट के अंदर। तब तक के लिए अब मैं ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं, अब मैं बिल्कुल चुप रहूँगा। तुम्हें मेरी बात सुनाई देगी क्योंकि अब हम पूरा बेस एक्सप्लोर करेंगे और सारी की सारी बातचीत करेंगे सब लोगों से। तो यार एंजॉय करो।
According to this console, there are still thousands of plant samples stored deep below the facility. I could ask Gaia about them the next time I talk to her.
Aloy, may we speak?
Train the body, train the mind. That's what the chief always says. We've been waiting.
What are you looking at over there?
The others have been helping me decipher the symbols the focus shows me. So, I thought I'd try to understand the weapon you intend to use against the enemy. This Hephaestus. It will be able to make machines? That answer to Gaia?
Yes,
How many?
as many as we need.
Such power. Has the world ever seen the like?
You said you were training with the focus?
That's right. I've been watching holograms of our fight with the Zenith Spectres. I had never faced machines so fast and agile before. How many do the Zeniths have?
I'm not sure. Probably a lot.
I would not wish to face them en masse.
I'm with you there. Must be strange, seeing everything through a focus now.
I can see machines like never before. Their strengths and weaknesses simply reveal themselves to me. To think that such a tiny object might be the most powerful weapon I've ever possessed.
What do you think of this place? It must take some getting used to.
It's an efficient center of operations, and an acceptable training facility. Though it could use some more color.
Duly noted. Anything interesting happen while I was away?
I found an acceptable place to practice with my blade.
Oh, and where's that?
Outside, above the base. There's a nest of sunwings that are always up for a fight.
Ever thought of sparring with something that's not trying to kill you?
That would defeat the purpose of the training.
Found anything interesting during your training?
Gaia told me where to find data on how wars were waged in the old world. I knew the Ten fought against machines, much as we do now, but it seems they were among the last of their kind. Later, machines battled other machines on behalf of greedy leaders, as they vied for lands and spoils. At least the Tenakth have the courage to put their lives on the line when conflicts arise.
There is nobility in that. But maybe we just need fewer conflicts in the first place.
Yes, of course. Hekarro would have it so as well.
How are your studies going?
I wanted to learn more about the world of the Old Ones.
And?
I looked up this pharaoh Gaia said you went looking for, and learned about the plague of machines he unleashed. To think that the ancient world was wiped out by a mistake. A single miscalculation. There is no glory or honor in such a fate. Only hubris and pointless death.
That about sums it up. Getting Ether out of the Grove made for quite a spectacle.
One that showed the entire tribe that Hekarro's mission for peace is the correct path, for it is now blessed by the Ten themselves.
Anything else you've been looking at with that focus?
Gaia showed me the knowledge you recovered out in the desert. I am no chaplain, but I'd be curious to test if something I read is true.
What is it?
The Old Ones believed one could hear the great waters, even in the middle of the desert, if you carried the carcass of a water animal with you. They called them seashells.
That sounds kind of gross. I heard my friend Talana came by the base. Did you get a chance to meet her?
Briefly. A bold woman going into Tenakth territory with that Karja armor of hers. She'll be lucky if my people don't shoot her on sight.
She'll be careful. She's just looking for someone who might need her help.
Whoever it is, they better be worth dying for.
What do you think of our squad?
They seem eager to fight. Though I admit it is strange to see a new Taru in the ranks. Farmers don't make for effective soldiers.
She seemed pretty effective when she took out the machines that were guarding this base.
Interesting. Perhaps I am mistaken.
Have you had a chance to speak with Varl?
Briefly. He fought well against Regalla's troops at Barren Light. Are all Nora as skilled as the two of you?
I'm not exactly one of them. But anyway, the Nora can hold their own. They managed to push the Karja from their lands.
I thought my tribe was the only one to have done that. Impressive.
Does it still hurt?
It comes and goes. I try not to think about it, but its absence is always present for me. It's difficult to explain.
I can't claim to understand. Only empathize.
Then you have my thanks.
Have you spoken with Errand at all?
I've had little chance to. I did see him bring some ale from out east.
That stuff's as bitter as salve-brush.
You get used to it, eventually. In fact, I wouldn't mind a drink myself.
I'm sure Errand wouldn't mind sharing. What have you been up to?
Varl has asked to learn the differences between my people's clans, so I've been teaching him Tenakth history. It is heavy with blood and death, but also with honorable deeds and vanquished tyrants. Maybe you'd like to hear about it as well, when our mission is done.
I'd be honored. What do Tenakth do to relax? You know, to take a break from training?
We play strike. Your Oseram friend, Errand, is surprisingly good at it, although he has yet to beat me. It helps one think strategically, hones the mind for tactics.
Somehow that still sounds like training. Have you spoken with Alva?
The Quen is peculiar. Nothing like a Tenakth. Her mind is sharp, that much is certain. But it's hard to imagine her surviving in the wilds.
Trust me, she's tougher than she looks.
I will take your word for it.
Now that you know who the enemy is, do you have any questions?
I'll admit, I find them hard to grasp. From the heavens. And invulnerable.
For now.
I will leave the strategy to you. I trust you will point my blade where it will cut the deepest.
I bet people are curious about that new arm of yours.
None more than our Quen ally. She couldn't wait to take it apart and figure out how it works. I gave her the data I used to build the thing, hoping that would satisfy her curiosity instead.
Good luck with that. You said the Bulwark was your home a long time ago. That you were part of the Sky Clan.
Yes.
That's all you're gonna tell me?
Fine. As you wish. My parents were killed in a clan skirmish, so I was raised by my squad. As I grew older, I came to be known as an accomplished fighter. Tekote took a special interest in me. I fought by his side against the Karja, and led my squad on a dangerous climb into the Daunt. It was I who opened the gates at Barren Light, from the east side, allowing the Tenakth to raise it.
That must have gotten you some attention.
Indeed. I was welcomed home as a hero, and I was content.
Then why'd you leave?
I became a marshal.
Why did you leave the Sky Clan to become a marshal?
I was sent to the Kulrut by Tekote. Back then, I would have obeyed his every order. I believed in him, like one would a father. I was too blind to see the fear in his eyes. Fear of a rising young warrior challenging his command of the clan. I returned a hero from the battle at Barren Light. But to him, I was only a threat. Never occurred to him that I had no interest in rising above my station.
Why did Tekote think you wouldn't be a threat to him if he sent you to the Kulrut?
Tekote knew that if I survived the Kulrut, I'd be forced to forsake the clan to serve the Tenakth as a whole. I'd never be allowed to challenge his command, even if I wanted to. After our victory at Barren Light, Tekote spoke to our people, said it would be selfish to rob Hikaru and the marshals of a warrior like myself. even though he knew perfectly well I had no intention of ever leaving. It was exile, guised as an honor. One he knew I couldn't refuse. So I became a marshal, and never looked back.
I'm sorry you had to go through that.
I am not. Though it pained me at the time, a marshal is what I was destined to be.
When we were at the Bulwark, the guard said something about the Wings of the Ten. Hikaru also mentioned it at the Cool Route. Dekka, too. What does it mean?
The visions tell us that the Ten flew on great metal machines with wings, and leapt into battle from the sky. For us, to imitate this feat is the ultimate expression of martial prowess, and it is why the challengers leap into the arena during the Cool Route. Many times I imagined it as a child. The feeling of freedom, and the awe it must have inspired.
What did Chief Hikaru say when you told him he'd be joining me here?
You spilt rebel blood at the Grove, and helped reunite the clans. There was little more to be said. He understood.
Well, I'm honored he lent me his best marshal. At least for a little while.
Indeed.
I have to go.
Let me know when you need me.
I've been carrying Elizabeth's pendant with me for months. But since we're gonna stay a while, I think I'll keep it here, where it'll be safe. Beta is so frustrating. I don't get how she can be so negative all the time. I mean, we're clones of the same woman, and yet she couldn't be more different from Elizabeth. I know Varl meant well, bringing up Rost. I guess it's hard to talk about. With everything going on, it feels easier to set those memories aside. At least for now. When I met Hikaru, I figured he was just another bloodthirsty warlord. Fashaw was right. Hikaru wants peace. It won't be easy. But with his new marshals, maybe his vision has a chance. There's a lot of stuff in here now. Alva's, Errand's, and Kotallo's, I'm guessing. This must be from the Scorcher that Kotallo and I took down. Not a bad way to test his arm. He's come a long way from the embassy. Holograms. Gaia, I thought you said the data here was lost.
I was able able to repurpose the equipment to store the data you have acquired in your travels.
Well, looks like it's getting some use.
What's hiding in this little file? Aloy!
Right to work, I see.
There's just so much. I mean, we knew of artificial beings that served the ancestors, but Gaia? Oh, she's amazing! And you, a true reincarnation of an ancestor. Genetically speaking, of course, not like the, late CO. And there's more ancestors out there, returned from beyond the stars. Of course, they're trying to kill us, which is not great. And Eric Visser is with them, which is disturbing. And then there's Hephaestus, and...
Okay. How about we take it one step at a time?
You're right. I also owe you an explanation for everything that happened at Landfall.
I imagine you don't know anyone here that well yet, but they're a good group.
It's funny because one of your friends is, well, another you. Not that you are the same person at all. I mean, you are, as in, you're both genetically Elizabeth Sobek, but even so, you're different.
Yeah, we are. I hope everyone's been treating you okay.
Oh, yeah, of course. They've all been extremely welcoming. And they share the knowledge they learn on their focuses with each other freely. It's refreshing. Back home, diviners can only share data with the permission from the overseers.
Sounds restrictive and stifling.
Yeah, you are not wrong.
Anything new around here?
Kotallo showed me the schematics for his new arm. I recall reading about robotic limbs within the Legacy, but I never thought I'd see one in action. Technology like that would be treasured back home. Think of what it could do for injured workers or soldiers. But knowing the Imperial family, they would use it for different purposes. Their own.
Replacing body parts as they grow older. Like the Zeniths.
Exactly.
I see you've been using your new focus.
It's been fascinating. So much better than the version the Quen have. What would have taken me years to sort through, like the database you helped me recover, with this, I've been able to establish search parameters to speed up the process. This could revolutionize how diviners analyze the Legacy. That is, whatever part of it the Overseers would actually let us study.
You wanted data, you'll find lots of it here.
A diviner has never had this sort of unsupervised access to archives such as this. And knowing you, I suspect there is much that would normally be forbidden held within them. But I was sent here to help you. I would be remiss to ignore any truth laid before me. Maybe it'll help the Quen find their way back to the path of truth.
You mentioned Eric Visser? How do you know about him?
The Zenith who tried to kill you? He is known to the Quen as the Protector. Combing through data related to his work led us to breakthroughs related to weapons and military tactics. Knowledge our rulers used to conquer and expand, to become the empire we are today. That's why he's one of our most revered ancestors. But based on your encounter with him, it appears he's even more ruthless than we ever imagined. Yet another distorted interpretation in the Legacy.
Well, at least you're piecing together the truth.
If only the Overseers back home would do the same.
Beta mentioned other Zeniths. Tilda, Verbena, and Gerard.
I'm afraid I don't know anything about them. Whatever legacy they left behind, the Diviners haven't recovered.
Back at the greenhouse, you spoke of knowledge forbidden to your people.
Diviners are meant to seek out the truth in the legacy, and many Imperials sponsor them in the hopes they'll find something the Empire can put to use, thus gaining favor with the Emperor. But the Board of Overseers claims certain truths are detrimental to the stability of the Empire, like discovering one of our revered ancestors ended the world. That is why Diviners are only allowed to access segments of the legacy. Only Overseers can view it all. It ensures that any heretical data can be contained and retrieved before it can spread.
What happens to Diviners who break the rules?
I never had the courage to ask.
You said you owed me an explanation for what happened in Thebes. I'm listening.
Right. I'll start at the beginning with the CO. He was an Imperial, the Emperor's nephew, in fact. As such, he sponsored many Diviners to search the legacy for anything that might help the tribe, and himself. He took a special interest in anything related to Ted Faro, whom we consider the greatest of the ancestors.
Ted Faro, revered ancestor. That's tough to take.
I know better now, of course. Anyway, the Diviners discovered that Faro spent a great deal of time in San Francisco. In fact, many of the most important ancestors did. So the Emperor's nephew convinced him that an expedition across the ocean might solve our most pressing problems. If only we could find the right data in this fabled city. Perhaps we could roll back the floods and storms that threatened our people. The Emperor declared that all the tribe's resources be poured into this endeavor. Dozens of ships were built, scouting missions were dispatched, and the Emperor's nephew was named CO, one who wields the legacy for the good of the Empire. The living embodiment of Ted Faro, the Renewer. It may seem strange now, but for a time, he carried all of our hopes. We really believed he would save us. We had no idea just how perilous the journey would be.
You said the expedition across the sea was more dangerous than you thought it would be. What happened?
We lost most of our ships to hurricanes, and scores of soldiers perished to hunger and disease. And that was before we even hit the coast. Once we landed, machines ripped our patrols apart, and we struggled to replenish our rations. There were bright spots, to be sure. We found Thebes and the greenhouse, but nothing improved the CO's mood as his dreams of saving the tribe were slowly dashed. He became more and more obsessed with Thebes and what lay behind its door, and more convinced that the title of CO was no mere honorific. You heard him, spouting nonsense about Pharaoh's essence and some kind of becoming. We knew these weren't the words of a sane man, but he was quick to put any who spoke out in front of a firing squad.
What a great guy.
The Quen are wrong about many things when it comes to the legacy. I can see that now. But what the CO became was a complete perversion of what principled diviners stand for. The pursuit of truth. I'm sorry you had to endure his madness. I'm just glad it's over. For everyone.
So, Bohai, your overseer. Will he run things better than CO?
He won't execute people on a whim, if that's what you mean. But he's hardly a paragon of integrity. I can't tell you how many times he took credit for data in the legacy that I uncovered. The best thing I can say about him is that he can be trusted to always do what's best for him.
Yep, sounds about right. The ancestors, is that what your people call the old ones?
Yes and no. The ancestors are the greatest of the old ones. Those whose legacy taught us agriculture, medicine, warfare, leadership, and patronage of the science and arts.
The CEO called Elizabeth Sobek an assistant. What's that about?
Right. Well, any old one who has made minor contributions or worked extensively under one of the ancestors is called an assistant. That's how we thought of Sobek, until we met you. Our limited access to data past the late 2040s has obviously misinformed our view of the past.
You mentioned the reason you came here was to help your family. Your sister...
Her name is Alika. Our parents are commoners, peasants, really. When I passed the divination exams, they were so proud. It brought honor to our family and increased rations. Only Alika begged me not to leave for the research academy.
Why? What happens there?
Alika knew that once you enter, you're not allowed to leave or see anyone, not even your family. Unless you can get special permission and an escort by an overseer.
It sounds harsh.
Like the focuses we keep, diviners are few in number, and the Empire is, well, fearful that outsiders will try to steal our knowledge. Last time I was allowed to see my family was just before our voyage here. Because of my position, I was able to get them refuge from the floods within the capital. But if our crops don't recover soon, they'll starve to death along with everyone else.
I promise I'll do my best to make sure it doesn't come to that. I need to get going, but if you need anything...
All I need is to help you succeed in your mission. The plan Gaia told me about, to capture Hephaestus, it will help set things right.
I hope so.
Then I will do whatever I can. I promise.
Looks like someone's made this space their own.
I see you found Varl and Zoe's room, Aloy. I believe they wanted private accommodations.
I see. That looks like one of the Utaru's land gods. Like the one we killed in the sacred cave. I'm not sure I'll ever fully understand, but... seeing something that represents life and prosperity turned into a weapon, it couldn't have been easy for Zoe. I'm glad I could help Zoe fix the land gods. She never gave up on them. And because of her, Plainsong's fields will bloom again. This is the core from the weapon that took out that Zenith shield. Near that facility where we found Beta. Gaia said it was advanced, like Zenith's tech. How did Silence figure out how to build something like this? Varl must have picked this up at Silence workshop. I guess it's what Silence used to capture Hades before he moved it to that orb. I don't know what bothers me more. That he tricked me, or that I didn't see it coming.
talk for a moment, Aloy? You're back. Good. Before we talk, I wanted to give you this. For helping me heal the land gods. Plainsong is in your debt.
Thank you, Zoe.
You deserve much more for all you've done. May the land always bloom in your steps.
And yours? How'd it go with the chorus after we fixed the land gods?
They were shocked when I told them that our lands would soon be on the mend. I thought Fane's eyes would pop out of his head. But of course they had no choice but to take it as good news, even if it meant all their preaching about meekly accepting our doom was exposed as rot. To be honest, I found the conversation to be highly enjoyable.
I'm glad. You deserve it. They're lucky that you never gave up on saving them. Did Gaia tell you anything about the Zeniths?
She did. Though it wasn't exactly easy to believe. To think that there are places among the stars where life can bloom as it does here. It is humbling, to say the least. And heartbreaking, that such life should be bent on destroying ours.
The Zeniths did a number on Beta. But she seems to trust Varl.
I still can't believe she told him the Zeniths are immortals. Old ones who cut themselves off from the cycle of life and decay. I've never heard of anything so selfish. To deny our dying bodies to the earth. To doom the life that would bloom in their place. It's despicable.
Sounds like you met my friend Talana.
Yes. The Karja Huntress. I haven't seen armor like hers since the Red Raids. But Varl tells me that she too suffered at the hands of the Mad Sun King.
Yeah. She's one of the good ones. Trust me. So you've been talking to Gaia?
Yes. She was kind enough to take me through some of the history of the Old Ones, including their demise and the heroic actions of her creator, Elizabeth Sobek. I was surprised to see she was you. Past, but reborn? Not that I claim to understand how.
You've been getting to know Errand, I assume?
Of course. Any friend of Varl's is a friend of mine. In this case, a very loud friend.
Are you guys training with Errand as well?
If you count trying to stick a spear in his gut as training, then yes.
Are you serious?
Of course not.
Good.
I was going for a couple of broken bones. He called the Utaru leaf grazers. Laughed at the idea of us simple farmers being formidable fighters. Before I knew it, he and I were battling it out in the common room. The man is slow, but he can throw a hammer around. Don't look so worried. We're evenly matched. For now. Next time he's going down like a load of boar dump.
Just try not to kill each other.
Injuring his pride should be good enough.
Is there anything I can help with around here?
Oh, no. We're doing fine.
Are you okay?
You and Varl have been friends for a while.
I like to think so.
I was wondering, what do you know about his mother?
Oh.
That bad, huh?
Why do you want to know?
He's spoken of his sister, Vala, but I noticed he avoids talking about his mother.
She's the war chief of the Nora. Best warrior the tribe's ever known. Tougher than a Thunderjaw, but she could be pretty harsh at times.
I see. That must have been hard on him. Thank you for telling me. I feel silly not being able to ask Varl directly.
I wouldn't worry about it. He's probably afraid Sona will scare you off someday.
I'd like to see her try.
You ever play that board game Errand set up?
Strike? I'm the one who gave it to him. I was hoping it'd distract him enough to spare us that ruckus he calls death metal. No such luck.
You and Varl doing okay? Training, I mean.
We're doing fine. Although I admit it'd be nice to take a small break from studying, just the two of us. But then who'd look after Errand?
Well, there's always Kotallo.
Leave a loud Oseram with a brooding Tenakth. What could go wrong?
What's everyone been up to?
I've been trying to share some of my meals with Beta. Thought it might help her feel more at home. Maybe even get her to sleep up here instead of in that dark basement. She would not be moved.
I appreciate you trying.
Patience reaps the best harvest. I'm not giving up hope yet.
How are things with everyone?
Slightly quieter. Aaron's been busy scouring data on his newest obsession. Apparently the old ones wrestled machines as some kind of performance. Called it metal versus meat. A must-see battle between steel and flesh, as Aaron likes to put it. You'd think we have enough of that going around as it is.
What else have you been up to?
I've been studying Gaia's seedlings, the subfunctions. I wanted to understand why one of them would do what they did to Fa. Imagine my surprise when I looked into this Hephaestus and found out it helped create all machines. Our land gods included. In a way, the Utaru owe Hephaestus our whole way of life, as well as our current troubles.
That's why we have to make Gaia whole again. Found anything else combing through that data?
Varl and I have been looking into the animals of the old world. Apparently there used to be thousands more species roaming around than there are today. Can you imagine that? I'd give anything to see them. Even as holograms. Though I know that without Artemis or Apollo, that may prove difficult. At least I can find comfort in knowing Gaia used many of them as inspiration for her machines. Her memory honors them.
What are you going to learn next?
I'm not sure. I asked Gaia for suggestions, and she brought up data you found on something called a museum? From what I gather, the old ones would store knowledge in them for all to see and learn from, like you've done here for us. Maybe one day more people will be able to use this place to learn the way we have.
That sounds crowded, but nice. It looked like you were working on something over there.
Just checking up on how well the land gods are doing, now that they've healed. And to think some people thought I should have given up on them.
Already said I was sorry.
Your friend thought it'd be a good idea to replace the land gods with new machines when Gaia recovers.
It wasn't.
The land gods have taken care of our people for generations. They are not some broken toy to be thrown away. Even if they are just machines doing their job, to abandon them in their time of suffering seems cruel.
I'm sure Varl understands that too.
He does now. I had to get pretty mad at him at first, though.
You know I can hear you guys, right?
Read anything interesting lately?
I found out the old ones use leaf infusions like the Utaru do. Tea, they call it. Apparently it helped soothe them. That and some sort of scented wax they used to cleanse their aura. Plus something called bubble baths. Me, I think I'll stick to singing to calm the nerves.
Learn anything interesting lately?
There's been much to read up on now that Ether has been reunited with Gaia. It's hard to imagine that machines like Stormbirds once helped heal the skies. I used to be terrified of them as a child. Thunder still brings chills to my skin. But everything Gaia creates has a purpose, no?
Yeah. And if we can get Hephaestus back, she can get those Stormbirds in line. Varl looks pretty focused.
He's been obsessing over the data revealed to us by Poseidon. Just the other day, we read about mountains hiding deep underwater that spew fire. If I understand correctly, Gaia said the flames they release come from the very center of the Earth. Like a heart, beating with the life of the world. As always, the cycle can be found in even the most unlikely of places. Of course, Varl's mostly interested in watching explosions happen underwater.
I assume you've been looking into Demeter now that Gaia's merged with it?
Yes. It's been humbling to know that the seeds I carry in this pouch came in turn from the seeds saved for Demeter in the old world. It gives me hope that the cycle of life will prevail now, just as it did before.
So, how does a tribe like the Utaru manage to maintain the peace with warriors like the Tenakth?
By holding them off. When our fields bloomed aplenty, the Tenakth looked upon our lands with envy. But Plainsong's dishes provided sanctuary and high ground to keep invaders at bay. In the end, even the Tenakth saw sense in a truce. The Utaru promised to provide the Tenakth with food from our crops every year. In exchange, the Tenakth would relinquish one of their own, a veteran, to train the Utaru in combat. This custom was abandoned a few years after the derangement. But some veterans still remain in the plains.
I believe I've met them already. I've been meaning to ask, You didn't seem to be on the best of terms.
That's what happens when you're the one Utaru who insists on publicly defying them. Twice. When the Karja invaded the Utaru plains, they did more than just attack our villages. They burned our fields, took our people as slaves, and murdered those who were too weak to make the trip back to Meridian.
To be sacrificed in the Sun Ring.
I was helping the healers back then, as waves of refugees swarmed into Plainsong. The chorus was divided in how to face the invaders. Some saw sense in raising arms. Others believed the dishes would keep us safe, as they had many times before. And while they bickered, I buried the seeds of the fallen.
It couldn't have been easy. Seeing your people suffer while the Karja invaded your lands.
I come from a small village near Plainsong. My grandmother used to say there was no seed that wouldn't grow there. I moved to the dishes when I decided to apprentice as a healer. When the Red Raids began, I thought about going back. But the injured kept pouring into Plainsong, day after day. So I kept putting it off. One day, I woke up to hear a Karja raiding party had ransacked my village during the night. I rushed there with the healers to help the survivors, but there weren't any left. The smell of burning flesh haunts me to this day.
I'm sorry, Zoe.
I made it a point to appear before the chorus as soon as we returned, to demand that we take a stand against the invaders. I was denied. So I left to fight on my own.
You said you set out to fight the Karja alone?
I did. But it turned out I wasn't the only one. News of my disagreement with the chorus spread through the plains. Before I knew it, I had more than a dozen Utaru warriors ready to follow me into battle. We knew we couldn't take on the Karja armies head-on, but we also knew the lay of the land better than they did. We ambushed smaller raiding parties, sabotaged their supply lines, and hit their encampments at night.
Sounds like you were a force to be reckoned with.
Enough that the Tenakth took notice. When the clans began to push the Karja back east, they let us join their ranks. We chased the enemy all the way to Barren Light.
You said you were at Barren Light when the Tenakth defeated the Karja?
Tenakth marshals climbed the cliffs of the Daunt under cover of night, then attacked from the other side. Before we knew it, the gates were open, and the full force of the clans burst through. What happened next was Not something I like to remember. When all the dust and blood settled, I smelled it again. The stench of burnt flesh. Our enemies defeated. What was left of my squad returned to the Utaru Plains. I went back to Plainsong. But even as the harvests passed, it didn't feel like I'd truly returned at all.
Is that when you became a grave singer?
I thought soothing the suffering of others would somehow appease my own. Then you came along and gave me a choice. I could either sing at people's graves or fight for a chance to keep them alive.
I'm glad you chose the latter. You called yourself a grave singer. What does that mean?
To all living things an end must come. It is I try to bring comfort and sing of the...
I have to get going.
We'll keep preparing for the mission ahead.
Looks like some kind of maintenance space. I wonder where this leads. Cells? Huh. That did it.
Aloy? A bunch of lights just turned on up here? Was that you?
Oh. Huh. Yeah, I guess it was.
I'm telling you, the old ones put blades on their feet, and... That doesn't sound safe.
Does sound fun, though.
Fine.
Well, now I know where metal flowers come from. Last-ditch effort to stop the Pharaoh Plague. Demeter must have started distributing them after it took refuge in the greenhouse. This must be from the cool route. Between the Rockbreaker and the Slitherfang, Regala really wrecked the arena. And I have a feeling she won't stop trying until Hikaru's dead. Delana must have left this for me on her way back east. I wish she could have stayed. But I know Meridian and the Lodge need her.
Ha!
Is this a piece from the bulwark? Kotallo must have brought this with him as a trophy. I may have fired the cannon, but he really put Dakota in his place.
So the old ones painted
One
their
of
faces
Studious Fortis's many scrolls.
like the card show.
It was a pain getting him to Barrenlight.
That beats me.
Still, he didn't deserve to be run down by Regala's riders.
Dust to my people. And the Tenakth.
I just think my face says it all as is. That's all.
That it does.
Where was I? Ah. Is it me or did the old ones just look funny how? Guess they didn't move around as much.
There's another room. What for? Too close. Oh, I'm back in the sleeping quarters.